With E3 just around the corner and a week away, I think that Sony's press conference will be the most interesting, as they have so many unannounced games and surprises that they can unveil. Maybe this year, Sony has a lot of teases for 2016 and 17 games, similar to Microsoft's conference that last year that teased what most of their studios are doing, leaving little surprises for this year. Sony has 7 main studios working on unannounced PS4 games. So first I'm going to go into each one and predict whether they make an appearance this year. First is Quantic Dream, which is the developer who made Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. With Sony putting on a big conference this year at the Paris Gaming Expo instead of Gamescom, I see Quantic Dream's game being announced there. The reasoning behind this is that Quantic Dream is a studio in France, so it makes sense that they would announce their game in front of their home country. Next is Sony Ben, who I feel will not make an appearance at E3 because they released Uncharted Golden Abyss in 2012, and then there were reports that they had a few ideas that were shot down when shown to Sony, and that has slowed them down. Now, one of the lesser-known studios is Guerrilla Cambridge, who changed their name recently after releasing Killzone Mercenary on PS Vita in 2013. They're working on a multi-million selling franchise, which based on their name change is most likely a new PS4 Killzone. The Killzone Shadowfall release as a launch title on PS4 in 2013. Well, maybe they tease a new Killzone. I think releasing a new one 2 years later is not smart, and instead it'll be in the great 2016 lineup for Sony. Now on to Media Molecule. The creative director said in January that they would announce their game this year. Shuei Yoshida also said that there will be a Project Morpheus games at E3 this year. So if the game, in parentheses, Media Molecule is working on is a Morpheus game, then I see it being announced at E3. But if not, then this could be with Quantic Dream as part of a few huge announcements at the Paris Games Week. Now, sticking on Morpheus, I don't really know that much about any of the games coming to it. So there's a few demos that have been shown and playable at different events. But we know that there's 2 studios in England that are working on them, where there's Sony Northwest studio that was just recently made, and then the London studio that they have. Both of those games could make an appearance this year, along with full reveal and release date, price information for Morpheus. The first game I think there's a 100% chance of being at E3 is Gran Turismo 7. People at Fulfoni have said that it is in development, which is not surprising, and that it'll be a 2015 or 2016 game. I see it being announced with the 2015 release date, but the possibility of being delayed. The next definite is the Elite Guerrilla Games' new IP, Horizon. It's supposedly an open-world RPG, and from the concept art, it looks very unique. I think this game is going to be Sony's big November title for this year. Now, at the end of their conference, I see a small God of War 4 tease. We know Sony Santa Monica is working on a new God of War that isn't a prequel, and I see it as their fall 2016 game. Lastly, a lot of people might be wondering, what about The Last Guardian? Sony says it's not cancelled. While it would be a huge game to show off at E3, Sony is Japanese. They want to win over their home crowd for pride's sake. Because of that, I think The Last Guardian could be re-unveiled again at Tokyo Game Show instead of E3 this year. Now that is all the first-party titles that could be shown off and accompany another Uncharted 4 demo at Sony's conference this year. And on to indie and smaller titles. Alien Nation from Housemarque, which made Super Stardust and Resogun, will surely have a gameplay trailer and maybe a release date. I am hoping the open-world game Wild from the Rayman creator from Ubisoft also makes an appearance since being announced as a PS4 exclusive at Gamescom last year. Another game that has been really quiet is Rime, and I predict that it will get a release date this year. Rime has an art style that is very similar to The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and that has made a lot of fans really hoping to hear more about it. A game that should definitely get a release date is Tearaway Unfolded, which is being made by a small part of Media Molecule. This game is a port from the Tearaway game on PlayStation Vita that was made by Media Molecule, and so a small team is taking that game and using some of the features from the DualShock 4 controller to make it work on the PS4, using stuff like the light bar and the touchpad. The other PlayStation 4 exclusive I see being shown is the Ratchet & Clank remake that is coming out in 2016. Now, with all that together, my fall lineup prediction is Until Dawn in August, No Man's Sky in early September. Now, this is a game that should have a huge presence at Sony's E3 conference because of how they've been trying to treat it like a first-party title, even though it's made by a team that's also bringing it to PC. Then in October, the recently announced Uncharted Collection has a release date of October 7th, and so it fits the early October slot. Then in late October, I think Gran Turismo 7 will have its release date, but could possibly get delayed. And then their big November game will be the Guerrilla Games' new IP Horizon. And now on to other things. Shuei Yoshida has said that there's a Bloodborne expansion in the works, and that should be shown at E3, PlayStation's E3 conference. Bungie has teased a new Destiny expansion, and because of their huge partnership with Sony, and Activision doesn't have a conference, it makes sense that they will show off the expansion at Sony's press conference this year. And then also, Black Ops 3 and Star Wars Battlefront had demos at their big reveals on PS4. So because of that, that's a sign that their partnership with Sony will mean some type of exclusive content in the future. And the last Sony exclusive is Street Fighter V, which is also coming to PC, but should have pretty big presence at Sony's conference to try to win over the fighting game crowd. Well, that is all the predictions I have for Sony's conference. If you have your own, share them down below in the comments. Thanks for watching.